Okay, welcome along to another podcast. Today it is Thursday lunchtime and I'm taking Patch out for a walk, and it's been snowing here and the wind's still picking up a bit, so that's good fun. And yeah, now I would like to talk through and feel through the subject of fear. And I'd like to first think about imagining that each of us humans we're godlike in many of our characteristics. But imagine a God that is, of which there are many, and each God has its ability to create, its own reality around it. But this God does so through its consciousness, its thoughts, its feelings, its intentions, and that they create physical circumstances in their lives. It creates access to different dimensions, and these they're dependent on the frequencies. And so in a world where this God can create such realities around them, that this God has also been programmed, controlled to not understand its own power. And in that scenario, it is unaware of its abilities to create. And in addition to the fact that this individual God can create, there are many gods, and so there's an effect of a collective creation, a co-creation aspect to reality. And so let's imagine there are 4 gods, and those 4 gods are each of them at a different vibration. They are a different level of happiness. They are a different level of frequency. And so the first out of 4 is at the lowest frequency, and so it experiences horrible experiences like pain and suffering and torture and self-loathing. And then to the highest frequency God, which is the 4th one, and they are the happiest, the most loving, the most compassionate. They value their self-worth, they have sovereignty, they are interested in serving others over themselves. And there's a sliding scale in between. So between the 4, there is a spectrum of this reality created by them, depending on their frequencies. And so the average reality, the collective reality, is somewhere in between the 4. It sits between the 2nd and the 3rd. It is a combination of all of them together. So when they connect, when they connect together into this consciousness, this collective co-creative consciousness, when they're all connected together, they experience the same kind of average collective. And when they separate from it, when they consciously decide to disconnect, or physically, go and live on a mountain or separate themselves in isolation, then they no longer connect, and they experience their own individual reality. So where I'm going with all this is these kind of the reason I use the word God is because I wanted you to think about a being with infinite potential. Your God. I don't believe in one God, and everyone has their own beliefs. This is not a really religious conversation. It is more that I wanted to get home the point that Humans are these gods. Humans, we do not realize it, the vast majority of it, but actually we are creators of our own reality. I don't know how unique this is to beings in the universe. I feel like there are many beings that are capable of this across different, races across the universe. But there's something unique about the humans in that against our free will, or should I say tricked against our free will, we have been controlled to believe that we do not have these powers. And that control is, it's put in place by a number of ways. We don't really need to go into them here. But even things like greed, greed for materialistic goods in our lives, the opposite reflection of that, or reflection of that, is lack. And lack is like this constantly seeking outside of us to gain happiness. And yet most of us do acknowledge that happiness comes from inside. And this is also where our creative aspects happen. This is where the universe created each of our souls to come and inhabit these human forms, and then to go out and create. And when we create a unique reflection of this universe. And when other consciousnesses, like other people, experience our creation, they interact with it. And our creations aren't just a song or a movie or building a house or whatever it is that you create. It is also the aspects of us that create the reality around us. And so when we think about practically how this works, for me, for example, if I'm in a fear situation, like maybe I'm worried that I hear a sound outside, and that I think it's, a group of people that are, causing damage to properties around, or they're like a threat to me, and I hear like screams of, shouts, and I might think, well, there's like a load of drunk people there, and they're gonna, they're a threat to me, threat to my family, my property. And so when you go through that experience and you feel that, what you're actually doing is creating that. So your response to the outside stimulus inside is what then creates the kind of the actual reality around you. So if you're scared, you will create this kind of angry mob of people that they could potentially do you physical harm. However, if you're in a high vibration, if you're much happier, and you actually see the good in what it could be, for example, some people playing a football match. This happened to me last night as I was walking the dog. It was actually screams of really joy and excitement from people. They were quite far away, about half a mile away in a football stadium, and there they were just screaming with fun as they were kicking and missing goals and scoring goals, and I feel like that split second of where consciousness interacts with the outside stimulus, such as the sounds of other people, it's that point that your consciousness then creates. And there could be two timelines. One is the lower vibration of the angry mob, and then the highest one is the people playing football, or you're just having fun, and that you, by choosing your response to it, your immediate response, like, oh, I wonder if that's people playing football, instead of, oh no, we're all going to die, type fear. That when you respond like that, you choose the timeline which has the most, the kind of highest aspect to it, the highest vibration experience. I also feel that the control that currently exists but has been massively weakened over the planet, that they understand how to program the human co-creative ability. And so imagine a video streaming service, a popular one, and that the content that you fill it with, such as let's use the example of an alien invasion movie. So if you want program people to feel fear when there's a big disclosure and a contact moment with an alien race, and you want to control people by saying, look, you need to stay inside, don't go out, and these aliens are a threat, then what you do is you create movies, or you fund these movies, you put them on the streaming services, people watch them, and as they watch them, their feelings and reactions create this reality. Maybe as far as actually creating the timeline where that actually happens. Because we know we are what we consume, but also our reality around us is what we consume. And so that's definitely something to think about with what you watch. I do get the sense there's also good in this as well, where people, it's not just all bad and all control in this world, that there are people that constantly put in kind of counter material to this. So this could be movies that are much more exciting and more empowering and much more high vibration experiences as a result.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. So, come on, Patch. Yeah, so that, definitely thinking about what you consume, and when you're watching something, whether it's or listening to it, music or whatever, think about how that's making you feel inside. And remember that how you feel inside right now is likely going to create the reality around you. And so it's up to you to decide and to discern what's right for you. I guess the bits I don't quite understand yet are more about the co-creative consciousness. And yeah, with co-creative consciousness, I feel like I almost imagine this kind of big cloud of thoughts and feelings. So imagine a town. I live in a small town, it's about 8,000 people, and above it in the morning when I go for a run, I see the kind of lights, the orange lights from the street lights glowing above it. And I imagine that the collective consciousness of the town sits there too. It's like a big bubble, a cloud that sits around the town. And the higher vibration is, the more it positively influences people, and the more negative it is, the more negatively it influences people. And that you can create your own bubble. You can create your own golden bubble from your heart, just expand it out around you for when you're in your home or when you're going outside, anytime. And you can also choose to connect into it and just breathe and consciously imagine your heart reaching out to this cloud and thinking, this collective consciousness, and thinking, how is it feeling right now? You might feel an increased anxiety, you might feel increased excitement, whatever the emotion is, you'll get a sense of it. And the most important thing is to be conscious of it and know that you're part of it, that you are always contributing to it. And so when you do your bit to raise your vibrations, you help the collective consciousness raise its vibrations. We're all connected in this way. So I hope that made sense, at least some of it, and leaves us with some questions to think about and reflect on. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, and I look forward to sharing more with you. I love you. Sending my love from Scotland. Have a beautiful day.